Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to Let's Create the Revolution Together. My name is Marigold, and I'm your host on this human journey that we're all here to experience. I've created this podcast because I wanted to show the world how vibrant and fulfilling life can actually be when we're creating our reality from alignment. Want to know how to get there? Well, you just got to stay tuned because every Wednesday we're going to meet new people that are shifting their reality to create a ripple effect of transformation. We're all here to evolve, and I think that every experience we encounter is an opportunity to grow. That's why I specialize in helping people bringing more awareness into their lives so they can actually transform their experience, small and or big, into learnings. So I say, let's create that revolution together, one experience at a time. All right, my beautiful beings, I'm so glad you are here today. Before we go into the episode of this week, I wanted to jump in to tell you guys that the rebranding is going so well. I'm so excited about it. I just found the name. I'm not going to tell you right now, but a few people actually know it. So I'm just so excited about it. Like since I found the name and I got clarity, like I'm just pumped, right? And so yeah, I cannot wait to tell you guys about it. It's going to be so freaking amazing. So I wanted to tell you right before this episode that if you enjoy Let's Create the Revolution Together, you can rate it on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. This is the way it works for podcasts. This is the way the podcast is being shown to more people. And so, as we want to create something better, something revolutionary, I'm inviting you to just spread the word. So, if you feel like sharing this episode with somebody that you know that might resonate with it, go ahead. It's free to do it. So, you do that if it feels right? And yeah, so you can rate it, you can comment on YouTube, you can like it. And I really appreciate all of your support. You guys are so amazing. I feel so blessed to have you in my life. So I'm going to leave you to it. Enjoy this episode and see you soon. Hello, beautiful beings. Today on Let's Create the Revolution Together, we meet Leisa Suastigui. This woman is an intimacy coach and a healer. Her mission here is to help people open their hearts so that they can experience more love in all of their relationship. She even calls herself the art open surgeon. How cute is that? She's also a Reiki master and a masculine energy worker. So I'm so excited for this episode today because her story is a very powerful one, and also I truly believe that this revolution that we're creating will be made by working with one another. We need to stop fighting and start creating from love to redefine our relationship, and that's where we're gonna go and deep dive today. I feel like relationship are really truly at the center of that movement we're building at the moment. So I'm just so excited. I hope you enjoyed this episode, you guys. I think you're gonna love it. So grab yourself something to drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's create that revolution with Leisa Suestigui. Hi.
Hello. More love, more love, more love. Definitely. That's it. That's where it all comes from. The
Yes.
whole one love, more love, everything is love. What more can you say? That's where we need to start from with ourselves and with everybody around us. If we could all do that, what a world this would be.
Yes,
Fortunately, it's not the
amazing.
case just yet, right? We're working on
Yeah.
it. We're working on it.
Yeah, it's always a work in progress.
Yeah, well, I think, it's just there's just been for so long there's been so much of this repression, and just everybody doesn't want to be vulnerable and nobody wants to open their heart because nobody wants to get hurt, and we've all experienced hurt. So of course we start building those walls and like,
Mm.
okay, well, if you're not going to open to me, I'm not going to open to you, and we just are getting smaller and smaller and smaller instead of stepping into that expansion. When you get hurt, really, that's the time to step into it and open your heart more. But we do the opposite.
Yeah.
We tend to shrink back from it and build the walls. So everybody's got
Yeah.
walls.
Yes, it's like a reflex of like scarcity, of like not being like, you don't want to be hurt more, so you want to protect yourself. You want to be
Absolutely.
safe, you know?
Yeah. And yet, if you're in those relationships where you feel safe, and that is the key, where you can feel safe to be vulnerable with someone, wow, the expansion and the
Mm.
opening that happens, those are those relationships we're all looking for. That's the intimacy we're really looking for, that deep
Yeah.
connection. You know, everybody, you hear me say I'm an intuitive intimacy coach. They're like, oh, so you're talking about sex? And I'm like, no. Well, yes, but no. I mean, obviously, sex is part of it, but it's the deep connection that you're actually looking for. Sex is just sort of like a byproduct of it when you're really, really connected to someone. And of course, the sex is so much better. Sex is so good when you have that connection,
When you have that connection.
right?
So,
It's
so
all.
Lisa, what brought you to that? Like, how, what was your story? How did you get there? Tell us.
It is such a, when you know, when you ask me to sit down and kind of write out my life story, and I recommend everybody does that, by the way, because you'll remember things you've forgotten a long time ago, and it creates this expansion while you're doing it. And I found I kept going off on like all these tangents, but then I'm like, no, actually, that's all part of the story. It's all those
Mm.
little, you got your river of life, and then you've got all these like creeks and streams that come off of
Yeah.
it, but then eventually join back up into the flow.
Yeah.
So my story, I mean, I came from your basic middle class family. I was always interested in everything mystical and magical. I loved tarot cards and oracle cards and, you know, ancient history, ancient civilizations, all the myths and legends. And I was just
Mm.
really drawn to like Egypt and Greece and Hawaii in particular. My mom gave me the name Leisa, as I was describing to you, which comes from the word lei in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I didn't really, you know, I played around numerology, very much a thing for me. I see numbers everywhere. That's my sign from
Mm-hmm.
spirit is numbers. But I didn't know it, you know, growing up, I knew there's something. I just never really tapped into it. And coming from a semi-religious family, like you don't
Mm.
discuss tarot cards, you don't discuss, you know,
No.
mysticism or any of that stuff because it just wasn't acceptable. So I just, you know, kind of lived my life as had my things on the side. But then as I was going through life and experiencing all the things that I experienced, especially, you know, as a woman in this world and the things that come
Mm.
up to you, you know, I developed at a very young age. At 14, I looked 18 or 19. So I was getting unwanted, you know, well, what they consider unwanted advances from much older men that were
Uh-huh.
interested in one thing only. And that sort of created that stream of the sexuality stream that brought
Mm.
in a lot of life lessons. Yes, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, seeking attention in the wrong places, all
Mm.
that juicy stuff that brings you the life lessons that you don't necessarily want, but you get. And yes, it started making me, you know, close off my heart. I went through the
Mm.
transition of sexuality of sort of being like, I don't want to say victimized, but sort of being, you know, the energy was coming at me in the wrong way
Mm.
and how I responded to it. I felt that was love. I felt that was well because they want me.
Mhm.
That must mean that they love me, right? Which of course
Right.
was not the case, which ended up causing a lot of pain and hurt and
Mm.
started building the walls, especially, you know, interactions with men. I'd start getting that, you know, well, maybe they want me, maybe they just want to have me type thing.
Mm.
And really started me tuning into and not realizing that I was tuning into my intuitive side a lot more to sort of read people. And then, you know, I flipped it to the other side where I took the power, but
Mm.
it was a wrong side. It wasn't an authentic power. It was the power of control. So that I'm like, okay, well, I can use this as a form of manipulation, if you will, to get what I want. So
Mm.
it flipped 180 degrees the other way. and again caused more hurt, more because it wasn't authentic, it wasn't true love or any of that. It was just a power struggle. It
Yeah.
became a power struggle. So yeah, growing up, I just I was watching my mom in her relationship with my father. I didn't see a lot of that intimacy, the hand holding, the little kisses,
Mm.
and that to me was just normal. That was like,
Yeah.
well, because you model after your parents. So I thought, well, this must be what love is. That they didn't ever fight in front of us, and I know that my mother was very cognizant of that. She wanted to make sure that we weren't involved in any of that. But I saw that she just, as a child, you don't understand what you're seeing. But I was reading off of her intuitively, like just she was not happy. There was a definite disconnect in that relationship and I was like, I don't understand what's going. This to me as a child does not seem like what I would imagine love
Mm.
to be. And then yes, I found like in their bedroom, I found books on divorce, and I didn't know what that was at that time, and I think it was maybe 8 or 10, and I came to her and I was like, why are there books of divorce? Why do you have divorce books in your room? And of course, my mom was like, what do I tell the kids? I don't want them to see. But she was at the point, she was so distraught in her marriage
Mm.
that she was ready to get maybe committed. Like she was being convinced that she was losing her mind
Right.
and and she didn't have the support. I mean, I have my mother's support in my life, but she didn't have that on her side. She got the made your bed, you lie in it type
Yeah.
attitude, which that must have been so hard. And that's when I started to see her strength coming through. And I was like, wow, she actually she sacrificed so much. She had to leave us kids with my father while she went off. She got a seedy hotel room somewhere. She slept on a mattress on the floor. She hadn't worked in like 20 or 30 years, so she had
Mm.
been out of and of course we've come through the whole computer generation and all the technology. So she had to like start from scratch. And she did. She got 2 jobs. She earned enough money to, pay
Mm.
for her room, and she also was having to cook meals for us kids and take them to the house because we were being taken care of by a nanny. And she just struggled and sacrificed and struggled and sacrificed. But
Mm.
the goal was her freedom at the end of it all, right? So
Yeah.
she kept that in her mind, thinking, and let me tell you, when she did come out the other side, Margot, totally different woman. Totally different woman. She was, you can sense when someone is like restricting themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that comes back to the heart, just like protecting themselves and restricting themselves.
Yeah.
And then when she came out on the other side, totally different woman, empowered, like free. She just, she was still working hard and everything, but she was actually able to breathe in her life.
Mm.
And although I didn't realize what I was witnessing at the time, other than yes, my mother is now finally like happy and playful, because she
Mm.
wasn't really playful before. Even getting when the first time she swore, I almost fell out of my chair. It was like she wanted to say, well, I don't even know if I don't want to swear on your
Oh yeah,
podcast,
you
but
can go ahead.
oh,
You
good,
can go
okay,
ahead.
because when I get passionate, I swear like a trucker. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. So
That's
she
perfect. You
like
go ahead.
she wanted to say shit. And she's just like, shit. And I'm like, oh my mom, if you're gonna say it, say it. Like, just get it out there. Like, mean it if you're gonna say it. So yeah, so I saw this expansion in her, and our lives changed as kids, and we were living, part-time with her and part-time with him, and I was hitting my teenage years now, and starting to have all these experiences with men myself, and I was just like, oh, like this doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel
Mm.
right, and I loved the performing arts, so I'd gone into acting for TV and film. I'd done plays throughout school. I went into acting for TV and film. And you want to talk about soul crushing experiences with just judgment everywhere you
Mm.
turn. Like, oh, you're not tall enough, you're not skinny enough, you're not this, you're not that. Not even polite. ways of reject. How many ways can you reject a person? So I was just like, I just wanted to like my goal. Initially, it might have been an alternate avenue of getting exterior attention
Yeah.
initially when I started doing it. But as I evolved through it, I was like, no, I just want people to feel something because I just
Mm,
noticed everybody around me was just restricted and not. I like, I'm sassy. I like being playful. I flirt. And people around me were just so shut off. I'm like, this
mm,
this isn't the way it's supposed to be. We're
mm,
supposed to be here on this earth having experiences and enjoying life, like living in joy. And
mm,
nobody was even close to being joyful that I was seeing in my life. So,
mm.
um, yeah, it was a hard, that industry was hard, but I got taught a lot of lessons. And that's when I realized, yeah, where's the love? Like,
Yeah.
where is the love in society? Where is love? Other than, obviously with hopefully with your family and with your friends around
Yeah.
you. But just, passing people on the street and people in general, there was no openness. There was no, everybody
Mm,
was shut off and protecting themselves. And I was living in a big city back then. And, people didn't say hello passing in the street. And I was like, wow, this just is not what I want. And then, of course, I got married when I was about 23. And if you had told me I was going to marry a Mexican man and go live in Mexico when I was a teenager, I would have told you you were crazy. But that's what happened. And living in Mexico, I think it's just the lifestyle. It was like I love the tropics, and I always feel more open and flowy in the tropics. And the food was cleaner. We were eating very clean, healthy way. And this was before we had children, and my gifts started coming in. I was becoming more
mm,
intuitive.
mm,
I knew things about people that I shouldn't know. We
right.
had a little restaurant down there, and I remember a couple came in, and they'd come in for a few days, and I had learned their names, which was Charles and Elaine. And they came in one day, and I don't just a drop-in download came in, and I said, "Well, welcome, Sir Charles and Lady Elaine." And their chins just about hit the floor, and they're like, "How did you know that?" And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "That's what we call each other." So Sir Charles, I don't know. I was like, I don't really know. And then things started to happen. Things started flowing more, and I was able to tap into my intuition and
Mm,
see things coming before they came. And I was starting to develop my clairaudience, like hearing channeled messages and whatnot, but I wasn't really sure what was going on. It was just messages were dropping in.
mm,
And um, I felt a need at that time to really start just helping people. And I didn't
mm,
know how. I didn't know I had the gifts of healing other than people always would come up to me and tell me their life story, that I just
mm.
strangers, random strangers, or come to me for advice or just come to talk to. And I'd be like, I'd love to talk to you, but I got things to do. Like, who? And I think that's when, all the empathic um, qualities came out. I didn't know I was an empath back then.
Mhm,
Um, but I knew that, I just felt people. I really felt them and I could tune into them. I could feel what they were feeling, which was uncomfortable a lot of the
mm,
time. And that's when I really started tuning into this, the heart center and how people were just so shut off. You could always see it in their body language. They were like shut down and they didn't really want to, they come to talk to you, but they're still standoffish.
yeah,
So yeah, I started developing through there and having lots of really vivid dreams down there, just because I think I was in a more expanded state, just being more relaxed down there. And then we
mm,
started having our children, and we, came back to Canada, and we were back and forth between Mexico and here from then on. But then I started seeing, the relationship. Unfortunately, it was 25 years before I finally said I just can't. It was not that he's a bad man or anything, but just a lot of verbal abuse, and that's
Mm.
when I really felt myself. I had two boys, so I was unfortunately doing what a lot of women do, which is we always put everybody ahead of ourselves.
Sure.
And I'm like, the boys need their father,
Mm.
I don't want to take them away from that. And I just sucked it up. And I was totally unhappy, losing my health,
Mm.
losing me. I lost me in there. Like Leisa didn't exist. I was the wife, the mother, the sister, the aunt. I was everything but me.
Right.
And just going through the motions of life, it wasn't a really happy time. And I had made the decision to divorce several times, but then backed away from it.
Mhm.
And back out again, the divorce, and of course, the whole mindset of, what I know what happened to me during the divorce. I know how I felt as a child when my parents divorced.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that to my kids, but this, unfortunately, it's quite the opposite. If you sticking in the marriage for the sake of the children actually makes it worse for the children, right? They're not getting the best of either parent.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to make the decision. I waited until my oldest son went off to college, and I knew that he was settled and he was okay and he was doing good. And my youngest son at that time was about 12, and so
Mhm.
and he was suffering more than anybody in that situation. So I just packed him and my dog, which was a big standard poodle, and we moved into a little 16-foot trailer, the three of us, right? And I was still working full time, so I had to have someone, take my son to work. It's actually a big blessing for me was a friend of mine who looked after my children most of the time because
Mm.
I was in the restaurant 12, 14, 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
which also was not helpful.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I started, and it's funny how your mind, when you come into like a lot of trauma, which is a lot of the healing, the work that I do is with trauma, emotional trauma that gets stuck in your body, and of course,
Yeah.
heart walls and everything else. Um, how your mind works, because I was talking to my mom about it the other day, and sort of comparing our two. There's so many similarities between her divorce and mine.
Hmm.
Um, and she was talking to me about, oh, do you remember when you decided to leave that one time and she had gotten a trailer from a neighbor of hers to put on her property. This was years before I actually left.
Right.
So I could move in. My kids were small at that time then. I had totally blocked that out. I don't even remember that.
Really?
It's like your mind just filters out. It's a protection mechanism, but I was like,
Yes.
I remember talking about wanting to leave at that time and talking to
Mhm.
my parents, but I do not remember it. She's like, oh, it was right on the property. You must have walked past it 20 times. I just don't remember, but there you go. There's trauma for you. It'll make you just selectively choose your memories to protect yourself. But
Yes.
then it's harder for us to dig into what's going on. Like, why do I feel this way? Why is my heart shut off? Anyways, yeah, I did leave, and it was my mother's watching my mother go through it that helped me go through it, because I knew on the other side of
Mm.
it was going to be like my actual life, that I was going to
Yeah.
be able to step into me, into my authentic power, and just live the life that I wanted to live. But getting through it, you have to keep that vision in front of you. And then that's sort of when my gifts really started coming in. I was like, yeah, no, I'm intuitive. I know, I've always known there was something more. I didn't know what. I didn't know what it was going to be, but there was something more. And I started going, well, what is it I really want to do? Well, I just want people to be happy and joyous in life.
Mm.
And started sort of tapping in, going within and thinking like, what is it? I know I'm supposed to, like, performing arts in one way is supposed to be in there because I enjoy that so much. It's such an avenue for me.
Mhm.
But really tapping into the full effects of just love and intimacy and that deep connection. And I was delving into all this, and I'd say it was probably about 4 years after my divorce that I met my twin flame. And I hadn't, neither one of us were looking for a relationship. We weren't interested. I was still dealing with my stuff, but that's the way these relationships are. They just seemingly come out of the blue and they're like
Yep.
throwing your path, and it's very expansive. It's also incredibly, there's so many lessons that you learn from each other, and it
Yes.
is very much, there's pain, but it's good pain. The difference between bad pain and good pain. This is expansive pain where you're
Yeah.
really starting to dig into your stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's painful. And so, you're just like, oh man, am I doing that again? Is this really, am I really? And I'd say that relationship was what fully threw me into
Hmm.
me going down my path, my journey. That's where I started looking into enlightenment and ascension and all the gifts that I realized, oh my God, I'm already doing that. I already have those gifts. I just didn't know what they were. And I started really expanding on, yes, I'm an empath, and that's why I
Hmm.
feel so deeply and I feel into other people and
Yeah.
all the clairs, the clairsentience and clairaudience, all the clairs. And so I started it, but throughout all this too, there was another streamline going, which was um, sort of seeing men in a different light, or the masculine, if you will, in
Mm-hmm.
another light. And really realizing that the one thing that really hurt me to the core was seeing a man cry. That
Mm.
to me just hurt me to the core. And I was like, what is it? And, then, and especially an old man, if I see an old man crying, oh my God, like
Oh.
roll me up in a ball because that's it, the game over. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I mean, I feel when I feel people, period, but it just seems to be. And then I realized I was really tapping into that divine or the masculine energy.
Mm.
And um, through all the beautiful expansion of women and feminism and all that, which is, pardon my French, fan fucking tastic. I certainly wouldn't be where I am now without that. And there's nothing, but we kind of, I feel some ways the men got left behind, the
Mm.
masculine, and there was a lot of that, like you said, that pitting people against each other, men against women, or
Yeah.
masculine against feminine, and who's better, who's stronger, who's weaker, who's. And I was just like, we gotta just stop this. Like, we're supposed to be supporting and empowering each other. That's the
Yeah.
union. That's what the union is.
Yeah.
You walk with each other, you support each other, you let each other expand, and you let each other have the freedom to do so. That is
Yeah.
union.
Yeah.
And that's been so distorted over the years, coming through this old paradigm that we've been coming through. And it's,
Mm.
I understand that we had to fight, feminines had to fight for their rights, but it's almost swung too much the other way now. And that's what I started feeling, is that the masculine, whatever body it's sitting in, is not being supported and doesn't have the outlets that we as feminines do have. We've got
Mm-hmm.
support groups. We can talk to one another. We have our little ice cream Kleenex cry fest, where we talk to one another and get it out. Whereas guys, they'll sit down and watch a football game and like not even talk to each other about what's going on. That's definitely changed. Thank goodness it's starting to swing the other
Yes.
way. But they still don't have the support that we had, and sort of venues to talk about their feelings and emotions, especially, like my generation and before.
Right?
You don't talk about your feelings. And
No.
that's, oh, you're weak and you suck it up and all these horrible things. I often think about the men who went to war and the
Mm.
atrocities they saw. They were
Yeah.
forced to kill other human beings and just come home and pretend to be normal,
Mm.
which clearly they're not. They've changed. Their whole mind has been just traumatized.
Yeah.
And where was the support? Like, it just hasn't been, the support hasn't been for them. So that's part of my mission now, is helping guide masculine. It's been particularly men, but masculine, whatever form of body it comes in, sort of helping to heal that and bring them forward, showing that there is support for them. And the beauty, I don't know if you've seen it, Marigold, but the beauty of a man who steps into and embraces their feminine for a bit and sort of embraces that side
Yeah.
and releases is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like
Yeah.
tears of joy
Yeah.
streaming down
It's
my face.
I feel like it's such a process for men right now. I was just talking about that with my husband. I'm so glad to have you on my podcast.
I'm glad to be
I mean,
here.
you're right. The feminism that was useful for us to be more considered in our society brought men to a different space, because
Yeah,
when before feminism, men were in charge, and it, I feel like masculine energy will thrive in that position where
yeah,
they're in charge, right? But it's like you said, it's a teamwork, it's a union. So if the man is in charge and the woman is just an accessory right there, like it's just like, and not it's not like part of the equation. First of all, it makes like the men have so much pressure on themselves. They have to
yeah,
provide. They cannot talk about what they're going through. That's why like people were like drinking a lot of alcohol, like back then. It was like men were like
yeah,
drinking a lot, and like they were like cheating a lot as
yeah,
well because they had so much pressure. And then the women are like, this isn't working. And now like we do have power, but it's like you said, we took the power in a controlling way, and by stepping into that role we forgot how to be our feminine side. And I think that's what's coming back slowly. And the more it's coming
hmm,
back, I feel like the men are like, they're kind of like lost a little bit. Like they're like,
they are.
where am I standing? And my husband, we've been
What am I
together for,
supposed to
yeah, what am I
do?
supposed to do? What do you want me to do? Like he's
Tell
like,
me
I'm
you.
stepping in, right? It's like I'm stepping in my feminine power, and I'm like, well, yes, and also like you got to be that part of yourself that is a man, and he kind of forgot how to do that. It's like
Yeah,
it's because, yeah, I've met so many men that are in that position where they want to take charge, but they want like consent, but they don't know when they have to ask for it. And sex, it's
yeah,
not the same thing that like when you're talking about children. It's like it's a whole thing.
yeah. And it is. It's hard. It's well, it's can be challenging to navigate, right? And I
Yeah.
found that too, is that I was, because of my divorce and having to take charge of everything, I was the
Mm,
mother, I was the father, I was the provider, I was the
right.
protector. So I had stepped deeply into my masculine without even really realizing it until I
Exactly.
got into that twin flame connection. And he was a masculine man. We're talking
Mm,
divine masculine, just juicy, everything you wantness, both exterior and interior.
mm,
And I knew at the end of that relationship, I knew why the lesson for why we had come together. And that was for him to teach me to step into my authentic power and realize my self worth.
yeah.
And I was to get him to open his heart again. So he'd had some really bad experiences in love. Couldn't even say the word love. He used to say the L word. Lesbianism? What are you talking about here? Right? So, anyways, yeah, I had stepped fully into my masculine. And so
Mm,
that relationship was like a dance because it was like I was still in that sort of control mode instead of in the allowing mode of the feminine, the
yeah.
receiving mode of the
Receiving.
feminine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and he kept saying things like, wow, I've never really had a woman kind of keep up with me in that way. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Didn't
Yeah.
make until I started realizing, yeah, I'm still in my masculine because I'm still in charge of this family. I'm still the
Yes.
one, working and paying the bills and the mortgage and providing for my kids and protecting, which is, generally has been that masculine role. It's the
Yeah.
provider protector role, and I've been a long time out of the receiving mode. There was nobody around me anyway, so it's just I was just always in that
Yeah, and
masculine
you're
energy.
in that survival mode as well. I was a single mother as well, and I feel like throughout my life I was raised by a man that is very like, he was a feminist. Like he was like, he almost like go like he almost went to the store, bought a bra and burn it, like that kind of man, right? All right.
Yeah.
So he was like a feminine man. Like my father was a feminine man, and he was afraid all the time. And he was like, he would say something like, men are shit. Like men will
Oh,
treat you bad. Men will abuse you. And I'm like, you're a man. Like it wasn't making any sense for me, but
right.
I still recorded that, And so
Hmm.
I needed to protect myself, from all of those bad men, like
Right.
it was a belief that was like brought up to me by my father, they're gonna rape you, they're gonna like abuse you, they're like, no men are good for you, and it's like I was in my masculine energy all my life because of that. And
Yeah.
so when I met my husband and I was in that masculine side, he just like took on the more feminine side. And I got like, when I was by myself doing it, it was kind of okay, because I kind of needed to do it. But when I was with my kid, I was like more nurturing and like more in my feminine. When I was in my house, I was like more in my feminine. And when I was going outside, I was more in my masculine.
Yeah.
And then when we got together, the funny thing that happened is that, exactly like you said, I couldn't release that masculine energy. But by being in a relationship with a man, like the polarity was like inverted, right? And so
Yeah.
he kind of started to be more in his feminine because I couldn't like be receiving him. And it was like weird for a while,
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
I realized, oh shit, I like this relationship is emasculating him because I'm the man. Like I'm the masculine energy right now. And
You're
it's
the strong masculine.
exhausting. And it's exhausting for
It
women to
is.
do that when you're in a relationship with a man. Like it's like I was like, I kind of know he should be doing that, but I kind of fear that if I release control, like it's not gonna
Yes.
be like I want it, or like
Therein lies the, yes, the catch, right? The control. And I know that for me, yeah, because I've had to step into the, just like you, I've had to step into that role.
yeah,
And the, the thing is, like that whole control thing and the power and the weakness, and which is all, it's just a mindset, anyways. The only thing we can ever control in our lives is ourselves. We can't control anybody else.
yeah,
So just realizing, okay, I'm in my masculine. Now there's nothing wrong with that if that's where you want to be, but I'd always been very feminine and I was starting to see, okay, yeah, I've had to do that to protect myself. And again, shut off the heart. I wasn't in my full feminine receiving mode and able to really give to the relationship
yeah,
in the way that I knew. Because I mean, when I'm in love and in a love relationship, oh my God, the person's going to get smothered. Not smothered in the bad way, but they're
yeah,
going to be loved on. That's just,
yeah.
I have every love language there is, and I use them. And it became, I think it was a little overwhelming for him because the experiences he had had were quite the opposite. And
Hmm.
he had sort of admitted that he had been dealing with a lot of broken people, as he called them,
Mm,
and he had had a lot of just really, pardon, sucky stuff happen to him in love.
mm,
So he wasn't open, right? So there, like you said, there's this like balance trying to go
yeah,
on, and if you're each trying to protect your heart, then nothing's going anywhere. And I
yeah,
finally I started totally expanding back into this, my love languages, and just like I said, my spigot was only halfway open, and he was like, "Whoa!" In this, and I asked, like, "Are you in this? Are you overwhelmed?" And he's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Shit, my love spigot's only halfway open. What are you going to do when I'm open and full? Here, shall I call a paramedic now, or I don't know what's going on." So, but yeah, so the whole, then I started stepping into this whole study of the divine masculine, divine
Mm,
feminine, balancing of the energies. I mean, they're never really fully 100% balanced because you're always going to be a little on one side or the
yeah,
other, depending what your personality and your makeup, excuse me, your
yeah,
makeup is. But being, what's really the key is being in the flow state. So you can flow between the two different energies
yes,
as you need them. Because you and I both know, as mothers, and I'm in the corporate world as well as in the
yeah,
spiritual world, that in itself is a balancing act. But I
yeah,
know when I'm in the corporate world, I'm definitely more on my masculine side because I got to
right,
take charge, I got to make the decisions, things that got to get done.
yes,
But then if I'm given a project where I get to do graphic design or step into the art side, then I start flowing back into my feminine creative
yeah,
energy. And it's that balance. And that's the beautiful thing. I remember seeing a couple who did I think they did a podcast or they did a video where they were talking about their relationship and how each partner steps back and forth between the masculine and the feminine because they both work and they have children, so they both have to be the nurturer, caregiver, and then they also have to be out in the working
yeah,
world. So there's this balance that goes on, and they
yeah,
did it beautifully. They had a flow going, and there was
yeah,
no, because when you're in that union where you understand each other, you understand all the energies that are going on, give each other the freedom to be who they are and to move through those energies. It's beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
the flow and just acceptance and just coming and going and releasing to each other and just it's just a thing of beauty. But it's really nothing that, I don't know about you, but that was never discussed with me growing up, right? We
Well,
didn't.
no, not growing up, for sure. For sure. This is
Relationships
something
and
you discover. Like, this isn't something you're taught. Like, well, like, I will teach that to my kids,
yes,
because I've experienced it. So
yeah,
right now, my relationship with my husband will be a little bit more like what you just said, like, so sometimes I will be more in my masculine, and sometimes it will be more in his masculine, and sometimes I will be more in my feminine, and sometimes he will be more in his feminine, and it's still like a learning process,
yeah,
because you want to learn how to be equal, but in some part, like, I mean, in some part of the relationship, it's always fun to be like, let's say with the sex part, like, I feel like it's easier when my man is like in is really amazing masculine, like this
yeah,
is what's happening for me, and then I
yeah,
can tap into my feminine side a lot and be
yeah,
more like that sensual part. But when I am in that space of our relationship, if I am in my masculine, I'm not enjoying myself as
right,
much, right? And so, like, some part of our relationship will like stick to the like normal. I'll just normal, like, he's
yeah,
gonna be more in his masculine and I'm gonna be more in my feminine, and
yeah,
it's mostly like that.
yeah.
But he's also the one who cooks all the meals, like, in like, because he loves cooking, he just loves
Oh
it so
my,
much.
can we clone him, please?
And so he's cooking, we're doing the dishes together, like the chores, like we're doing them like as it goes, like, as it comes, we're not like in those gender role
Yeah,
anymore, like, that's for
yeah,
sure,
this is
that's
union and partnership at its best. Yeah,
yeah. And so we will spend, so like right now I'm working, so he's with the kids, because we made it our schedule so that he can work in the morning and I can work in the afternoon, so that when he's working, I'm with the kids, and when I'm working, he's with the kids, and the nights are like the family time. So
perfect.
that's how we created it,
Yeah,
and it's gonna evolve and it's gonna transform, because
absolutely.
it always is.
Yeah, constant transformation of everything in life, right? Just
Yes,
go with the flow, as they say. As long
yes,
as you As long as you
It's
can
like
stay in that,
yeah, it's like when you get too comfortable, I feel like it's time to just like reconsider the whole
right?
thing, you
Yeah, I
know?
think we need to shake things up a little bit sometimes,
Right.
right? Yeah, exactly. Well, that's just it too, and especially when you're talking about sex and everything, and we both flow through different sides. Sometimes the man or the masculine partner wants the feminine partner to take the
Mhm.
lead, right? It
Yes.
depends. It's all about energy and what's happening at the time, and there's no right or wrong. We've got
Yeah.
to get out of that headspace of the right or the wrong and
Yeah.
comparison and judgment and all those are so old. Those are old
Yeah.
paradigms, old teachings, old thinkings. It's the patriarchal, just
Yeah.
I'm glad to see we are starting to drop it, but the more people
Yeah.
see it for what it is and how destructive it's been, not
Yeah.
just for women, if we
No,
say
for everyone.
patriarchal and people think, yeah, people think, oh, it's for, you're talking about for women. I'm like, no, it was really destructive for men too,
Oh, yeah.
to the point now that men, a lot of men, I shouldn't just blanket everybody, but a lot of the masculine male energy do not know where they stand anymore. They're lost,
Yeah.
and there's this generation of males who want the women to do everything. So then the woman's stuck in that masculine energy,
Yes.
and it creates this real problem within the relationship, and resentment and everything else that goes on because you want your partner to be your partner, regardless of what sex you are. You want your partner to be your partner and support
Yeah.
you. And there needs to be a balance there.
Yeah.
And, really, when you get into union, a lot of people don't have that conversation like, okay, in our relationship, what do you want to see happening? Like, what is your idea of the ideal relationship? And how are we going to
Yeah.
support each other? And that's not a conversation that's being had. And like with the intimacy stuff too, there's different stages of intimacy, but most people consider intimacy to be the sexual side of it. But that's where they start, and that's not the place to start. You want that deep connection first.
Yeah.
And so when you start with the sexual side, generally it's not sustainable. I mean, you can have
Yeah.
really great sex, but for how long? If you're
Right?
not having those intellectual, emotional, spiritual conversations, if you're
Yeah.
not connected on all those other levels, you can have great sex with a lot of people. So why is that relationship going to be the one for you? So,
Yeah.
I talk to people about that intimacy because that's really what we're looking for. In the end of it all, that's the connection because sex is the life-giving energy. That is like the super powerful energy. That's why
Yeah.
you're so euphoric
Yeah.
when it's good. Anyway, so that that connection is what you're looking for. So, if you can establish that, if you can get that deep, juicy level of connection with somebody where
Mhm.
you don't even have to say anything, you can just be in their presence, just be cuddling or just there or having that really good intellectual conversation that just makes you just appreciate and respect them so much more, and you literally
Yeah.
you want to climb into their brain because you're on that level with them. That's what creates that deep level of intimacy and connection. So when you do move it into the sexual side, oh my God, it is
Yeah.
even than before. But
Yeah.
we've slipped into this um, sexual connection first, as opposed
Yeah.
to more important intellectual, emotional, and spiritual sides of things. So
Hmm.
try to, and then when I tell people, yeah, because they're like, oh, I can't find love in my life, and I just, I'm looking for that relationship, and I don't know what to do, and I'm like, well, I can help you with that. We got to get your heart open. We got to drop these borders you've built up and everything, but
Right?
it starts with you.
Yeah.
That doesn't go over well.
Yeah, it starts with you, knowing who you are, opening your heart, and then being able to communicate that,
Yeah, yeah,
you
and
know?
it's like when people say, I want to find my other half, no, you both got to be whole
Yeah.
to come into union, right? It's not two halves make a whole. It's two wholes make a union. This is what you want.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're you're trying to fill, that sounds wrong, you're trying to fill each other's holes. I'm just going to leave it there. So, but you can't, it's like you're looking for something outside of you.
Yeah,
And you can't hold the other person in a position where it's up to them to make you happy. That's never going to work.
yeah.
So, yeah, it goes over like a ton of bricks when I say, okay, we're going to get your relationship back on track and we're going to get that love flowing again. And they're like, perfect. And they want you to say, so we're going to start with them. No, no, no. We're
Uh-uh.
starting with you. You see it going, shit. Yeah, we're starting with you. So, but it's beautiful to watch that progression, right? It's beautiful to see people step into
Yeah.
when they finally open it back up. And there's a lot of release that happens. Like
Mm,
a lot of people have been, especially men, have been repressing all these emotions for all these years. So they haven't had the opportunity to fully express themselves. And
yeah.
if I'm doing a session with a couple, usually I try and do them apart, but if I'm doing a session with a couple, and the man starts expressing the things that he's been feeling for so long, the look on the woman's face or the feminine's face is just, why haven't you ever told me this
Mm.
before? They haven't had the platform. They haven't had the opportunity or the wherewithal. Can you imagine if a guy went up to his friends like, hey, Bob, I've really been feeling sensitive these days and I've been I can just imagine how that conversation's going to go. Unless it's between a couple of awakened men, then yes, you'll
Yes,
get,
yes. There's some
right?
men who are doing that, but
Woo!
it's
Yeah.
not the majority yet.
No,
That's
and it's so powerful to see when
yeah.
you see men supporting men in that way, or male
Yes.
masculine supporting masculine. It's like, oh my God, there's hope for us yet. Like the upcoming generations are going to benefit so much
Yes.
from the work that's being done now. I can't express enough how much I do work. Obviously, I do work with the feminine too, but lately it's been tacking over to the masculine just because there isn't a lot of support for them. So,
No, you're right. You're
um,
right. They need that, and we need
they,
that as women as well. You know,
yes,
as women, we need our men to be supported as well.
absolutely, because they can't be in the relationship fully if they're not getting the support they need. And I think that's where a lot of men right now are kind of, I don't want to use the word resentful, but they're sort of feeling left out and that they don't have any place and it's all about the
Mm,
woman and what she wants and this and I obviously as a woman I love being in my power, but I know for myself that I want to be in my deep feminine power and hook
right.
up with a man who's in his deep masculine power. And
Yeah.
when people hear that, they're like, "Oh, that sounds kind of toxic. That sounds kind of like," and I'm like, no, it's the opposite. That's when full union happens because you're each respecting each other in their roles in the
Yeah.
relationship. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, but the masculine, feminine energies, when they're constantly battling each other, there's no room for growth and expansion. The
No, that's for
relationship
sure. Yeah,
eventually
that's
is
for
going to
sure.
explode,
That's for
right?
sure.
So I just the
And
whole intimacy and the energies, it just so flows together.
yeah. Yeah, and it's you're right. I feel like it can seem toxic when we say that the masculine will be in this masculine and the feminine will be in this feminine, and there's like this thing because there's so much wound around that since like
Yes.
so many times, so many years like back, the masculine being in this masculine means, I don't know, for some of us maybe being aggressive,
Yeah.
like assertive, not letting the space, taking
Yeah.
everything, taking charge too much without like considering, there's like, I can see that in my relationship sometimes when my man wants to just make a decision and he feels like he has to come to me to ask permission or like to ask for consent. It's
Right.
yucky for me and it's yucky for him,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and it's just like when we realized that, it was like, screw it. Like if I know that I need to do something that will like be good for my family, for my wife, for me, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. And I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go and knock at your door and ask you, hey, do you
Is it
think we should
okay?
like buy something like that? And I'm like, what? It's such a turn off for me. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, just take charge
Do it.
sometimes.
Teach.
You can.
You can do it.
Go. Go ahead,
Well, and that's exactly what we're talking about. It's like, and I mean, obviously, with big decisions, you want there to be some sort of
Yes.
just a consultation. Hey, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this?
Yeah.
Not like, honey, please, if it's all right, I kind of know. That's it needs, and I'm seeing a lot on the internet now that a lot of men are coming forward and talking about standing in their authentic masculine,
Yes. I've
and the
seen that
fact that
too.
that is being received the wrong way because when a man uses a word like take control, women immediately or feminine immediately is like,
Nope.
whoa, you're not
Uh-uh.
controlling me. Nah,
No.
that's not. And that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about stepping back into that role of the provider protector. And that's not protecting because the woman is weaker at all. It's just that is their role. They are actually
Yeah.
like if you imagine them, you imagine the woman walking ahead, going out into the world, creating, nurturing, being her feminine self. And the man is right there beside her, protecting her from whatever might come at her. It's not because she's weak. No, he recognizes how fucking powerful she is. And
Yeah.
that's what we want. That's what we want from our masculines. Is like,
Yes.
yeah, let me be in my power, and I definitely want you in your power. And the two of us together, I mean, I get chills when I talk about it
Oh yeah,
because
me too. Same.
that energy is just raw. And it's like, that's where the power is. You get those power couples, you can feel them when they walk in the room. You're like, wow,
Whoa.
what
Yeah.
is going on there?
Yeah.
And it's
It's
just
like,
that,
it's not coming from controlling the women,
no,
but being devoted to the woman.
devoted, absolutely,
You
100%
know?
supportive, devoted. That word control I don't like because it does bring up all these. It's a trigger word for most people
Yeah,
because
you don't want people to have control over you. This is not what this is about.
no,
But to
but
have a
take
man that
control of a
is
situation.
yeah, but to
Yeah,
have a man that is fully devoted to you, oh my god, that's amazing. That's just so cool.
I,
You're like, "Oh
I need to
yeah,
say,
bring it on. Bring
bring
it
it,
on."
bring it on. Yeah, I have a bumper sticker on my car that says, if you can't handle the sass, then you definitely can't handle this ass. Because I'm telling you, it's just that's me in a nutshell. But no, I mean, that is just a beautiful, and the more we're moving into it, the more I'm seeing, and it's so great to see just the men stepping back into that sort of. But it is, I mean, I used to joke when that whole thing came up a few years ago about, and I wasn't joking, but to try and alleviate some of the tension with the whole, men and women don't know what to do with each other and asking
Mm,
for consent, which has sort of taken the whole whatever that word is of when you're first getting to know someone, you're getting to that stage in a relationship when you want to have sexual relations. And as a woman or a feminine, you might be looking for the masculine to make that first step, first move. And they're sitting there going, well, like, am I going to be out of bounds here? Is she going to slap a lawsuit on me?
yeah.
There
Yeah.
was a really weird phase. So I was talking about,
Yes.
perhaps going on dates, both people should take a lawyer with them and have these
Right.
conferences. Oh, like, okay, now she said yes. Is that a yes? Yes? Is that a hard yes? Can we get a signature here? Can you both agree on that? Oh wait, she speaks Spanish. Now, did you understand what she was saying there? Following you into the bedrooms, like, is that okay? Or are we both in? Because she wants to put her leg up. Are you okay? You're okay with that? Okay, you're okay with that? Okay, okay. It's just, it
Oh,
gets to the point.
yes.
Oh my goodness, we got so far swung. I mean, it's important. It's obviously very important that no means no, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's and it's so hard because some people do cross over that boundary. Obviously, we have
Yeah.
so many examples in our society of people crossing the line. But by the same token, there has to be that energy exchange between people. And yes, I guess at this state, we do kind of need to give them the, I mean, I have no problem saying go for it,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of people who can't express themselves sexually, which is also something I work on, to be able to ask for what you want and say what it is that you want. And that I think is a lot of where the confusion comes in, because
Mm.
a lot of the feminines, especially my age, maybe, well, I won't say my age, but let's say 40 and up, who have been sort of raised with this whole, especially social, religious, cultural backgrounds that don't allow the
Right.
women to express her sexuality, then she's, she's kind of at a deadlock, battling her inner
Yeah.
conversation that's going on, as opposed to what she really wants to do.
Yeah.
And no matter which way you go on that, one side or the other, you probably, if you do it, then you're probably going to guilt yourself later. And if you don't do it,
Mm.
then you're probably going to think, oh, maybe I've lost that person or whatever. I mean, it's just a constant, I don't want to say battlefield, but that's been what's been built up again with
Mm.
the sexuality and the repression and not expressing yourself and not being open
Yeah.
and vulnerable with the people that you're with. It's like
Yeah.
there's so many facets to it. So,
Yes.
but, but we're on the upswing. That's the good news. We're on the upswing from that,
I
where
see that
women
too.
are,
I see
yeah,
that too. Yeah, I
I
feel
love it.
like we're gonna reach
Balance,
that state where we're more balanced, you know?
right? Yeah,
And it's like, yeah, I feel like it's important to say that, how much, like, to just say it again, how much different it is from one person to another, with the feminine and the masculine energy. So you might, it's all like, I don't know, it's almost like taboo right now to talk about, like, this,
yeah.
with everything
With
that's
what's going
going
on,
on,
yeah,
and like, with the new generation that are trying to redefine this whole thing, by pushing the boundaries even, like, further, saying, like, you're non-binary or like that kind of stuff. And it's like, I feel like it's still like that pendulum of, like, being super restricted, fighting,
yeah, yeah.
for
Everybody's,
right, and then it feels like we're just, like, swinging a little higher still,
yeah.
before
That's
we
when it
can get
finally
to,
comes into the,
yeah,
yeah,
before we get to that middle space where we can actually embrace that feminine and that masculine part we all have
yeah.
inside of us.
Regardless of what vessel it sits in. That's
Yes,
the thing. And really, Dan, comes down to love, compassion, and acceptance.
exactly.
You know, it's really hard to come to that place when both sides are fighting so hard for their opinion.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, this
if
this is
you're
why I wanted to say we need to stop the fight, because this is not
fighting,
where we're gonna win. We're never gonna win from that space. Never, ever, ever.
no,
Like,
no,
past will show us that. Like, no one wins. Just
no,
like, it's not the
no,
way we need to go. You want to call yourself non-binary, just call yourself non-binary. Just don't make a fuss about it. Don't try to have, like, people um acknowledge you, like, this is you, you're doing this for yourself, like, you don't have the whole world, you don't need the whole world to be behind
agree.
you, you know it's you. Like, I'm not saying no, like, I'm saying those person have the right to exist, but when it
Absolutely.
comes from love, you don't need to fight for it.
Yeah, well, that's just, and because we definitely want, I want everybody to feel loved and accepted.
Yeah.
And it's not we get into the right and wrong of it, and that's doesn't have anything to do with it, because what's
Yeah, it's
right
the
for
same.
me may not be right for you. We're never going to come, it's that agree to disagree. But at the same time, people need to have their rights. They need to be respected. They don't, like, and it's finding that balance. And that's sort of, we're at this the stage where where everybody's fighting for what they want, and I get it. It's like feminism when it first came out. We had to fight to be heard, and then
Yeah.
it kind of settled back down into, we're still not obviously at parity with wages and whatnot. We won't get
Yeah,
into
you know,
that, but
that's why I feel like the fight is not helping, you know?
no,
It's just not helping. We see the result right now. Like it's still it's still not like equal as they wanted back in the days, you know? And
yeah,
is it really where it has to go, you know? Like I'm just like questioning, you know? I'm just questioning
yeah,
because I feel like while we fight those things, we're not like progressing
no,
really
it's just
fast. It's
the
like
old thing.
we're butting head,
Yeah,
and it's like I just want to see that revolution
right.
like just bloom so
Blue,
wide, you
right?
know? Like I just want everyone to just
Everybody
bloom.
accept everybody, please.
Just
Just,
like just
live, live.
mind your stuff with love. Just like
Yeah,
get back to your heart space. You know, like
right?
we're all one. Like we're all
Yeah,
like the same, you know? And so when we fight someone, we fight ourselves. And let's take back this power of like if like let's look at ourselves. If I'm fighting you, I need to look at what is the fight inside of me. Like what's
yep,
going on
absolutely.
really? Why do I need to fight for this opinion or for this thing, you know, whatever it
Yeah,
is, you know? And just like
yeah,
take back
exactly.
this is where we take back the power, not by like it's like you said, you're not gonna come, you're not gonna start with the other, you're not gonna start with your partner, you're starting
No,
with you. And it's the same for
absolutely.
everyone, for all. Like
And
it's not just in relationship, but
no,
it's like with everything, we
life.
start with you, right? And
Absolutely.
so
Yeah,
we
when
need to
someone,
take that responsibility with love, not with anger. Like we don't have to be angry about it. Like it is what it is, you know?
it is, yeah, absolutely. If we could all step into that, I always say step back when you get into a situation where you feel triggered or there's
Mm,
something in front of you that it just brings something up in you. And I remember Abraham Hicks used to say that whenever you experience a really negative reaction to something or it causes a negative feeling in you, it's because you're believing something about yourself that isn't true, even though
yeah,
it might be happening in front of you through someone else. We're all mirroring each other. So it is a
exactly.
reflection. It's always a reflection back to you. So why is that bothering me so much? Not what are they doing? No, no, no. Why is that bothering me so much? And then
Yeah,
you have to go within. You have to figure out. But people don't want to do that work. That's the problem. And it's a matter of like in any argument, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
yeah,
There's your decision right there. I choose to be
yeah,
happy. I want people, I try and send out love to as many people as I can, regardless of if they're faith. I think I told you that story during COVID, where a man had parked his truck right up against my car.
yeah.
And I came out, I unloaded my groceries. He had two dogs sticking their head out the back window of his truck that were just bark, and they were the kind of dogs that people would be afraid of. I'm not going to mention the breed because I don't believe in that, but and I don't, I do animal healing as well, so I can bring my energy to a level that makes them calmer. And so I was talking to them, to the dogs, the whole time I was unloading the groceries, finished doing that, put the cart away. And then now, in order to get into my car, I literally have to stand up against my car. Obviously, I'm not going to turn my back to the dogs, right? So I'm trying to shuffle along the side of the car and I'm talking to the dogs and I put out my hand because they'd calmed down and they were sweet, such sweet dogs. They were just in their I got to protect my person mode.
Right?
And the music that was playing, so I felt bad for the dogs because their hearing is so much better than ours, and that music was cranked, and I'm like, well, and I started seeing the window go up, and I heard yelling going on, and I thought, oh, he's yelling at the dogs. Like I feel bad that he's yelling at the dogs because I'm the one talking to them, and I'm still going along my car, and I get to where my car door is, and he had his passenger side window down. And I realized, no, he's yelling at me, and the names he was calling me, like, oh my God. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, first of all, getting into my like, and he was just you effing this and effing that and and blah 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 and c word and b word and blah 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 on he went. And I just looked at him and I honestly felt the pain that he must be in to even think to talk to anybody, let alone a female, in that way,
Mm,
and a female that is notably older than him, where it's like, hello, did you, what is going on here? So I just sort of looked at him and I said, I'm really sorry that you've experienced such pain in your life that you feel the need to take it out on me in
mm.
that way. And that just lit the fire under him because obviously it was triggering. He's you're such an effing weirdo. And then I felt like, bless you, my child. That probably would have put him over right over the edge, right? But I was just like, yeah, have a good day. Have a good day. I'll just get in my car. And my mom, who's 85, was in the passenger seat. The look on her face is just like, wow. And I said, yeah, yeah, he's in a lot of pain. Like he's dealt with something in his life that I can't even imagine because I can't imagine being that riled up and upset
Mm,
to express in that way to another person. So I just release that. Just gonna release that energy. And my
yeah,
mom's like, wow. I said, Mom, that was a test for me. That was a test for me to step into my power and my compassion because that back voice in your head is going like, oh, you should just go after him and just
yeah,
no, what's that gonna do? That's probably gonna start a fist fight in the parking lot is what it's gonna do.
yeah,
You know, come from compassion, come from understanding, come from love. And yes, sometimes it's very challenging.
yeah,
Sometimes there's something in your face, and that's the time that you're in a situation where you need love the most. This
yeah,
is where you need to come forward and love the most.
yeah.
Can we all just do that, please? We're
Mm,
at a point now on this earth where there is all kinds of things happening. And most of them, if we could just step back and again, reflect on ourselves. Why is this bothering me so much?
yeah,
And then come from a place of compassion and love and say, how can I serve you? How can I help this situation out? And
yeah.
wouldn't that resolve so many of the issues and problems, or at least take them down, you know, below half, so that there can be, because there's no communication when each side is yelling at each other,
That's for
regardless
sure.
of what the issue may be at hand. There's just no way to come together
Yeah, that's for
when
sure.
you're trying to yell over each other. So step back, step into love, go into your heart, go compassion. One
Yeah,
love, people. One love.
amazing.
uh,
Thank you. Thank you so
yep,
much, Leisa. We
you
needed
are
that.
so
We
welcome.
needed to
Oh,
have this conversation. I feel like it's just so important to redefine our love relationship with like whatever opposite sex or the same sex or whatever, but to just
yeah,
like be able to redefine them and coming from love instead of lack or fear or anger or control, and just like really surrendering to something bigger than just like needing to meet your other half, like
right.
needing, coming from
There's the
another
key word.
space in that wanting relationship in our lives.
Yeah. Yes, that's just it. That's the key word, need versus want. Two
Yeah.
completely different energies. And you can feel both of them. When
Thank
someone
you.
needs you, I
Thank
need
you.
you, Margot. Yeah,
Yeah, it's such a turn off when someone needs you that much.
it's
you
work. Then
know
it's work. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So, all right. Thank you so much. And your links are all listed in the description down below. So, if people
Perfect.
wants to reach out to you, please do. She's
Please
amazing.
do. Please
And
do.
Yes, amazing. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Love you. Mwah.
Mwah.